Good evening, everybody. My name is Mary Ellen Barnes, and I am the co-president of the Palos Verdes Peninsula League. I'd like to welcome you to our candidates forum for the California State Assembly District 24. I'm the moderator, and I'll be sitting over there. So now I want to go over the format and the ground rules. We are taking written questions from the audience this evening, so if you want to ask a question, just raise your hand and somebody will bring you a little paper and pencil and you can write it down, and then when you're done, just wave it around and someone will pick it up. Questions are to be addressed to all of the candidates. All the candidates participating tonight have signed agreements that they will abide by our rules and our timetable. After I introduce all of the candidates, they will each have 1 minute for an opening, and the order in which they're sitting, in which they're going to do their openings, was determined by drawing numbers just a few minutes ago. After opening statements, we will have written questions from the audience. Each candidate will have up to 1 minute to answer each question. And finally, they will have 1.5 minutes each to do their closing or summary statement. Since this is a forum designed to provide a nonpartisan setting for undecided voters to hear all positions, any demonstrations of support or opposition to the candidates or their position will be out of order. Because we have so many candidates this evening, I've divided the candidates into 3 groups. This was going to be a group of 3. It looks like that's a group of 2. Then we have a group of 3 and then another group of 3. And I'm going to be asking different questions to each group, and then I may recycle some of them to the groups that didn't answer the question before. But I'm not going to go up and down with the same question. That's just deadly. Having been in the audience before, I know that. Okay, today we have 3 timekeepers. We have Cindy Condon, we have Janet, and we have Peggy. And they are doing, and Peggy is doing the paddle, so you'll see that. And if you don't see that for some reason, I'll let you know that your time is up too. So please abide by the times because we are taping this tonight. I will let you finish your sentences, but don't keep going on and on and on, or I will cut you off, and I have a bell over there to do it with. So just be reminded. This is a forum. This is not a debate, so no rebuttals and no personal attacks on each other. Just stick to answering the question at hand. So I'm going to go over to my seat, and then we will start opening statements. And what we're going to do with the opening statements is start with you and just go right on down the line. When we get to the closing, we'll start down there with Rick and work our way back. But everything else is going to be in these little groups, okay? Let me just move. Okay, so we're going to start with our opening remarks, and we're going to start with Mike.
Thanks, Mary. How's everybody doing tonight? Mike Newhouse here. Good to see you all. Thanks to the League of Women Voters for hosting this. Look, I like to keep it pretty simple. What I think we've lost a lot of vision of in this state is we've got to focus on the basics, right? When folks call 911, you want cops to show up, you want firefighters to show up, you want them to be properly funded, you want them to be ready to be able to do their job. We want clean streets. We want clean cities, right? We don't want to see tent encampments. We don't want to see people die on the streets. We don't want to see businesses and communities hurt. We want to see small businesses thrive. As some of you might know, women are starting businesses at the clip of a 5-to-1 to men in this state over the last 5 years. It's a huge issue for women voters. California values, I think we all support those values, but I think everybody else up here does as well. But the way I differentiate myself again, we got to focus on jobs, business, housing, affordability, clean streets, public safety. I'm proud to be heavily endorsed by public safety, as a lot of you know, heavily endorsed by small business owners and community leaders. And that's what I bring to the table. I'm happy to be here tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Cheyenne?
Thank you so much, and thanks to the League and my fellow opponents for being here. My name is Shai Roy. I'm the chair of the Santa Monica College Board of Trustees and a physician here in the South Bay for the last 15 years at Harbor UCLA. Harbor serves South LA, and the biggest reason that I'm running is to help fix healthcare in Sacramento. We're facing significant Medicaid cuts from the federal level and the state level, and we need healthcare folks to be in Sacramento to help navigate the way forward over the next decade at this inflection point in our healthcare. We also lost our home in the Palisades fire, and representing the voice of our fire-threatened and our fire victim communities that are a significant part of the Senate district are a huge part of why our family is taking this on as well, on issues such as fire mitigation, insurance stabilization, making affordable fire-safe rebuilding possible in California. Look forward to the discussion here, and I have a wide coalition of support, including the California Democratic Party.
Thank you. Christina.
Hi, my name is Christina Irwin. I am a mother to 3 kids. I'm a real estate agent. I have worked locally around here in the South Bay, throughout the district. I was actually also on the Palisades Charter High School Board of Trustees, and I actually ran in 2022 for the same seat as a write-in candidate. And funny enough how that happened with COVID and the schools shutting down and all the mandates happening, the crazy mandates, I decided to run. And now it is an open seat with a lot of competition, and the school burned down. So I ran on, these are huge issues that are affecting all of us with medical freedom, with affordability, with fire mitigation. So I'm looking to have your vote tonight, and I'm looking forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Amaris?
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. My name is Amaris Dordar, and I'm an attorney, a former United States Department of State scholar diplomat, and a candidate for State Senate District 24. I've spent my career solving complex problems, from advocating for clients in the courtroom to international policy, and I'm running because our communities deserve leadership that is both thoughtful and effective. In this district, we're facing real challenges: affordability, public safety, and trust in government. I'm committed to delivering practical, accountable solutions that actually improve people's lives, and I look forward to sharing this with you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you again to the League. You always put on wonderful forums. Appreciate the time and appreciate all of you coming out. Speaks to the importance of this election and the importance of democracy. I'm Eric Alegria. I'm a vice president of the Palos Verdes Unified School District, two-term city council member, and have proudly served as an elected in our local communities for the past 10 years and as an appointee much longer than that. I'm running to ensure that we maintain and increase and improve our public safety, improve our quality of life, the preservation of our safety in our local communities, ensure that we protect and encourage an economy that's beneficial to our small businesses, and ensure that we continue to invest in public education and maintain healthcare access. So I appreciate your time here, and I look forward to the discussion this evening with my fellow candidates. Thank you.
Thank you. Zenon?
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Zenon Aliate Crow. I am so happy to be here. Thank you again to the League for hosting this event. I am a fifth-generation Californian who has been born and raised in this district my entire life, and I feel so fortunate to live here. My family came here so many generations ago because California is the land of infinite possibility, and I believe it needs to remain that land of infinite possibility. But I'm going to give it to you guys straight. I am the first generation of my family that is staring down the barrel of less opportunity than those that came before me. I worked as the executive director of a nonprofit. I've worked on presidential campaigns, congressional and Senate campaigns. I've passed legislation to build affordable student housing in Sacramento. And I served as the youngest commissioner in Santa Cruz history. Yet throughout all of that, I still couldn't afford to move out of my parents' house. I live there today in the childhood bedroom where I was raised. And boy, is it a trippy feeling. Look, I'm running because we need to do things differently. I believe that we deserve something more, not more of the same, and I hope you will help elect me to be the first Gen Z legislator in California.
Thank you. Ellen?
Thanks so much for having me. I interned for Barbara Mikulski in college. She was the original no-nonsense, get the job done Democrat, someone who knew that good values didn't matter if you didn't deliver results. And that's why I'm running. We don't have a lack of good intentions here. We have a lack of leaders who insist on execution. I get it, it's hard. I've spent a lifetime learning how government actually works as an LGBTQ advocate, as founding president of my neighborhood association, and as a neighborhood council leader. I've built programs from scratch, found the funding, and seen them through. I bring an unusual path to this race. Union carpenter, film editor, screenwriter, mom, community organizer. But the through line in all of them is delivery. I'm the pit bull in the room. I'm the one who will advocate for you in Sacramento, so I'm asking for your vote and your trust so that we can create a bright future for our young people to look forward to.
Thank you. And Rick, before we start, somebody in the audience wants to make sure you put the microphone right in front of your face because they can't hear you, okay? Thank you.
How's this?
That's good.
Okay. Good evening. My name is G. Rick Marshall. I'm pleased to be here this evening, and thank you, League, for hosting this forum. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of the California Taxpayers Action Network, a statewide nonprofit dedicated to fiscal responsibility and government transparency. I also work as a data analyst for a major Southern California academic medical center. I have a long record of public service in Torrance, including leadership roles on the airport, planning, and water commissions. For more than 35 years, I have actively been involved in community efforts, raising funds to cure muscular dystrophy, delivering Christmas gifts to children of incarcerated parents through Project Angel Tree, and mentoring youth through Junior Achievement. My wife Janice and I have made Torrance our home for the past 35 years, and we have 2 grown daughters, Kirsten and Victoria, both dedicated to their careers and serving their communities. I'm running because we need to make changes to fix California. And I look forward to discussing how to do that this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to move on to questions. I've got you in like 2, 3, and 3. So you're Group A over here. Just you are. I'm going to start with Shai, and then Mike after Shai. What is your position on activating the windfall profits bill that requires the 5 oil companies controlling California's refineries to release their expense and income so that we can require them to keep prices reasonable instead of gouging consumers?
I think anything to increase the transparency of these companies, I think, is a reasonable thing to go forward with. What I will say is the refineries, the way to transition to clean energy, which is the goal, I think, of the majority of Californians, the majority of the people in the district, is bring working people along. And, there's the Torrance refinery here. They have unionized jobs. And part of the reason why it's been such a stable entity here is because, people get paid good wages, can live near where they work. And as we look to transition to a clean energy, economy in an increased way, I look to, bring working people along on that journey. And we can't have working people think that we're going to put them out of jobs by penalizing the companies that allow them to live near where they work. And so it's an all hands on deck kind of approach.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
A minute or a minute and a half on this?
Minute.
A minute, okay. Look, making sure everybody is being transparent, corporations and otherwise, is extremely important. When you start targeting certain corporations, you run into problems when you start treating people disparately. Look, at the end of the day, everybody up here and most everybody in this room, as well as everybody I know at those refineries that are here in the district, want to transition to a fossil-free future as quickly as possible, and we're not going to do it without them, quite frankly. But what we're not going to accomplish is getting that transition and keeping people employed if we are running more and more businesses out of the state prematurely. So accountability is great. Let's have that accountability across the board for any businesses that are operating at those levels of profit, making sure that people are paying their fair taxes. But let's not lose sight of the fact that we want to really focus on getting ourselves to a zero fossil fuel emission future, not focusing in the short term on things that feel good and will actually hurt that cause.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to the group in the middle here, and we'll start with Amaris.
My
Let me give you the new question here. I am a gay voter in this district, and I want a straight answer from each of you. Okay? You're on notice. California's Medi-Cal program currently covers gender-affirming surgical procedures, and there is no minimum age written into the state statute. I'd like to ask each of you to pick one of three positions. One, you support keeping the no minimum age policy. Two, you support adding an age floor, and if so, please tell us what it is. And three, the third choice, you support removing taxpayer funding for these important procedures. So you got to pick one according to this.
Can you give me the
Sure.
last part of?
The last, you want the three choices again, or just
Yes, the three
the three
choices.
choices? You support keeping a no minimum age policy. You support adding an age floor, and if so, at what age? And the third choice is you support removing taxpayer funding for these procedures altogether.
Thank you. Healthcare decisions, especially involving gender-affirming care, should be guided by medical professionals, evidence-based standards, and when minors are involved, appropriate parental or guardian involvement. These are complex and deeply personal decisions. They should not be reduced to politics. The priority should always be patient safety, informed consent, and ensuring that care is appropriate to the individual. I don't support setting a single rigid age floor in statute for all gender-affirming care because different types of care require different standards and medical considerations. What I do support is a framework guided in evidence-based medicine where age-appropriate care is determined by established clinical guidelines with strong safeguards like informed consent, parental or guardian involvement for minors, and oversight by qualified medical professionals. The role of the state senate is to ensure that guardrails are in place protecting young people while allowing doctors and families to make careful, responsible decisions based on individual circumstances.
Thank you. Eric?
Thank you for the question. What Anne-Marie said, that was beautifully stated.
I know.
Yeah, this is an important issue, and I do think there are areas that really are deeply personal, as was stated, and that require a physician, parental, and engagement in a decision like this. And so I, as somebody who's supported healthcare access for 20 years in my career and currently am the CEO of a public health company that provides care to vulnerable populations throughout the Southwest, this is an important issue. But my position is clear, which is that I don't think that we should be interceding on a decision between the parents, a child, and their physician. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina?
Hi there. So as a mama bear of 3 kids, I do not think that children should transition under 18 years old, and I absolutely think that the state should not fund it. We have bigger priorities to deal with. Our education system is at the very bottom. We need to bring back common math and regular reading, writing, and history. And we cannot be focused on gender ideology. Yes, it is something between the parents and the health caregivers, but also don't forget all these bills that are coming out of Sacramento. They don't really care. It's all, how do I put it nicely? They're getting funded for it. They're getting funded. So as a mom, I don't think it should be, state funds should go there.
Thank you. All right, now we'll go down to our third group here, and we'll start with Ellen. What would you do for e-bike safety?
Ooh.
Hot topic right now.
You know, I know e-bikes are a huge issue, and regulating e-bikes are a huge issue. And I went on a ride along with the sheriff in Malibu, and they told me about their challenges in enforcing the regulations that do exist. They say, we take the e-bikes away, and then parents buy them new e-bikes. And I think, we've seen when we get new technology, we have an adjustment period, and I think we're in that adjustment period. So we need to lay down really clear rules, make sure that people aren't riding what are effectively motorcycles as though they were bikes, and just set state policy so that we're moving in a direction of greater safety. But it's going to take a little while, right? Because adjustment always does.
Okay, thank you. Rick?
Yes, e-bikes are a problem, but I think we need to pursue, and I agree that we're in a adjustment period, but we need to license them like we do motorcycles. We need to have age limits, and if those things are violated, then there needs to be consequences. And I would support even fining the parents if they continue to create public safety hazards with this.
Thank you. Zenon?
Let me give you an answer not brought to you by ChatGPT. Look, when we talk about e-bikes, we also have to think about the broader traffic violence epidemic. In the city of LA, last year, more people died on our streets of traffic violence than gun violence. Think about that statistic. E-bikes, as they exist, have different classifications. There's different regulations depending on what classification you own. The major problem that we see with e-bikes is people remove the throttle limiters that allow them to go up to 40, 50 miles an hour, darting in on our roads in extremely unsafe manners. We need to regulate the e-bike industry themselves to stop them to allow to build bikes that can be tempered with and can be removing these limiters. That is the issue. The issues are the manufacturers who don't care about the users. This is how we tackle these problems. When we tried to make it so roads were safer, we required seatbelts. And that worked really well because we attacked the manufacturers that were creating these dangerous vehicles. We need to approach the same perspective when it comes to e-bikes.
Thank you. All right, next question. We will start down here. We'll start with Mike. Okay. Will you, and if so, how will you carry on the environmental work that current State Senator Ben Allen dedicated much of his efforts to?
That's a great question. Ooh, let me get this here. There we go. I appreciate the question. So as a lot of you know, my heavy practice, I own a small law firm. One of the heaviest points of my practice is environmental law. My undergraduate degree is in environmental science. My law degree is in natural resources law and management. It would be one of my top priorities. Ben's been great on the environment, and whoever takes over this position has to be ready, willing, and able to actually jump in with the expertise we need. So as somebody who's been practicing in the environmental law space, in the CEQA space, in the California Coastal Act space, and also in toxics remediation, I come uniquely qualified to obviously deal with these issues. I've also sat on the LA City Planning Commission for the better part of the last 10 years, dealing directly with environmental issues as they affect building, development, CEQA, the Coastal Act, et cetera. So I plan to hit the ground running. It's one of my North Stars, and it's extremely important in this district. And let's just be honest about it. We got the coast from Malibu all the way down to Palos Verdes. It is singular in this state. We got to be ready for it, and I am.
Thank you. Shai?
Look, I'm proud to be the only endorsed candidate for the Sierra Club, and I respect Ben's leadership on the environment that is so critical in this coastal district. And my voice will be a little bit different than Ben's with, looking at the same, leadership. It'll come from a public health standpoint. My research is on heart disease at Harbor UCLA, and my research shows me that the closer you live, for example, to the Long Beach port, the higher your chances of having heart disease. And I will bring a public health voice to environmental issues in Sacramento, and that's where I'll start. I'll start with the health outcomes and work back. And this is deeply personal to me. As victims of the Palisades fire, we were direct victims of climate change. And this is an issue that I will take on when I'm in Sacramento.
Thank you. All right. For the middle group here, start with Eric. Education in California ranks in the bottom third nationally in reading and math, but we spend way more money in California than many other states. As a mom of 4, I want to know what each of you would actually do to fix these classroom outcomes, not more money. So what specific reforms?
Thank you so much for that question. My PhD dissertation work has been focused specifically, thank you, Mary. Making sure that public education finance is understood, focused on, but that outcomes are measured. Specifically, I've looked at the question of, does finance itself determine outcomes? And the answer is partially, of course. There's a lot of other areas that we can invest. So we need to invest more intelligently in terms of programming, leadership, and ensuring there's good climate and culture. There's a lot of evidence that I was able to discover through interviews throughout public education leaders throughout the nation that led one to believe that with the right investments, the focused investments, and the measured outcomes, you can produce better outcomes without having to overspend on public education. So that's the opportunity for us is to be more surgical and more targeted in our investment and more accountable in terms of measuring of outcomes for our respective districts to ensure we get good outcomes for our students.
Thank you. Christina. Oh.
Oh, sorry, okay. So as a mom of 3, basically, let me just say that I am for charter schools, I am for homeschooling, I am for curriculum transparency, for parents having a seat at the table so that they know what their kids are being taught at these schools, whether private or public. And it's very important that we do not raise taxes. Education is very important. We in California, as you guys know, are the worst in the nation when it comes to that, and yet we're the richest. It doesn't make sense. We are spending trillions and billions of dollars to fix homelessness, and nothing has happened. We've spent money, I don't even know how much, I believe it was a couple $100,000 per pupil. And what has that gotten us? Nothing. So we need to rethink and reform our educational system. We need to start allocating funds for charter schools, like I said, homeschooling, and that should be a parent's decision.
Thank you. Amaris.
We need to separate 2 conversations, how we spend and how well the system performs. Both matter, but reform is what drives results. On spending, the priority is making sure our dollars actually reach the classrooms, supporting teachers, early literacy, and reducing class sizes, not getting lost in bureaucracy. On reform, we need clear accountability, measurable outcomes in reading and math, transparency for parents, and consequences when systems consistently underperform. We should also expand career and technical education so students have a real pathway into the workforce. I myself, I went to LAUSD and did magnet schools, and then that set me up to go attend Yale and Harvard. So more magnet schools, like Christina said, charter schools to give the maximum opportunities to our students.
Great, thank you. All right, down here we're going to start with Rick, and then we'll go to Zenon and then Ellen. Okay. Where are most of your donations coming from?
Friends and relatives.
Okay, that's a good answer. Okay, Zenon.
I want to be really respectful, but I really believe our policy making should not be done using ChatGPT. And it is, I don't know how to say this kindly, but your answer should not come from reading a ChatGPT prompt. It's ridiculous that you are asking questions. And I'm sorry. I'm very passionate about this because,
Don't
yeah.
attack other people's answers. Just answer your own questions.
Yeah. In terms of our campaign, we are attracting a lot of grassroots support. We are trying to do a trailblazing campaign to elect the first Gen Z legislator in California because we need to do things differently. We can't keep on making the same mistakes. And through that, we're building a large coalition of folks that want to see that change. They want to see the next generation. So my donations have come primarily from small grassroots donors, and I'm proud to say that we've raised the most out of money out of any 23-year-old candidate in state history.
Okay. Thank you. Ellen.
So I've led a neighborhood association for a decade, fighting for real change, delivering real change for people in my community. And so they have stepped up, and people I've worked on the neighborhood council with have stepped up to help fund my campaign, as have people I've worked with in the LGBTQ movement as a board member at Equality California Institute and on the Equality California PAC board, and other people who are just find my message compelling, who've been introduced to me by others, and that's it. That's where my money's coming from.
Thank you. All right, now we're down to, back to Mike, okay?
The A-team.
Sorry, the A-team, yeah. Well, yeah, okay. I'm not going to go there. It was just the luck of the draw, right? All right, starting with Mike. Do you support or oppose the YIMBY actions in planning, land use, and zoning for California?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very broad question, but to walk folks maybe through some specifics if you don't know them, I am opposed to SB 79. I am opposed to SB 9, which are commonly associated with the Yes in My Backyard movement. I am a huge housing advocate. I have approved more housing units than anybody on this dais probably over the last 10 years on the Planning Commission in the city of Los Angeles. I am a housing, construction, development, real estate attorney whose clients have built probably large swaths of the greater Southern California area. Having said all that, we can meet our needs and our housing needs by adaptively reusing buildings and structures we have, by exercising urban infill in environments that are close to transit, that are walkable, that can create 15-minute communities, and that actually can be where we need transit to keep people off the road and working from far away. Building 5 to 9 story buildings in residential zoning and single-family neighborhoods is not necessary. It's not going to work. It's going to end in endless litigation, and it's just not where we should be focused.
Thank you. Shai?
You know, I also opposed SB 79 and SB 9, you know, before that. But the reason I opposed SB 79 was, you know, not because it was poorly intended to, you know, build housing near transit, but in places in this district, there are a huge amount of renters that are trying to age in place and, you know, rent stable, you know, units in places like Santa Monica that are going to be displaced because of this kind of bill. And so I very much do believe local control is important, and targeted housing particularly, so that people can live near where they work and students can live near where they go to school. I've been a big proponent of student housing at Santa Monica College. The solution from the state for our unhoused student population has been living in cars and parking lots. That's not the solution. The solution is helping build housing on campuses where there is, you know, where there are areas that we can build housing. And I intend to go project by project and help, you know, build targeted housing in this district.
Thank you. All right, now for our second A-team. Let's go for, I will not be outdone.
I think you have
by
a future
Mike.
in politics, Mary.
Thanks. I don't think so. We'll be Christina, Amaris, and then Eric, and then we'll go on to our other A-team. Okay, many of our legislatures are frequently seen to abstain from tough votes. NVR. So they can't be held.
We can't hear you.
Many of our legislators are frequently seen to abstain from tough votes. NVR. They cannot be held accountable one way or the other. Would you be comfortable with frequent NVR votes? Is that okay with you?
Clarify, what is NVR?
No vote, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, repeat the question, please.
Okay, right now, many of our legislators are not voting,
Correct.
and they're not held accountable in any way for that. Would you be comfortable, apparently, I'm assuming this from the would you be comfortable with frequent no votes or yourself? Is that okay with you?
With frequent no votes for myself?
Yeah, you not voting.
Abstain.
Abstaining. Would you be
Oh,
comfortable
I mean-
abstaining all the time, a lot of the time?
I mean, if it's, you know, I was on the board of trustees at Pali Charter High School, and I really don't think I abstain too much unless it's something that quite impacts you personally or it's an ethical question. But the bigger picture is being your next state senator, tongue twister, being your next state senator, here we go again, the best thing you can do is be transparent. So I would not feel comfortable voting no voting record or abstaining because, you know, I'll be working for the people. So basically, I'm working for you guys, and as my constituents, I know you want to know what's happening up there in Sacramento, and I feel like right now Sacramento has forgotten about you guys, and I won't do that.
Thank you. Amaris?
Yes, I agree with Christina that the collaboration that you do with the constituency, you know what they want to reflect back as policies, and you should be in constant conversation with that constituency, and that should inform your decisions. So I don't think that yeah, I agree with Christina. Abstaining from no votings, you should already have in mind what your constituency want, and that should be reflected in your policies.
Okay, thank you. And Eric?
Sure. There we go. Thank you, Zen. Yeah, this is a simple answer from my standpoint. It's no. I mean, I think we do our best policy when we're collaborative, and that doesn't mean we're always going to agree. But I think as representatives, and I as a two-term city council member, and my now second year as a school board member, I think it's really important when you articulate your point of view and land on a decision. That should, of course, be done with a lot of listening and collaboration with your community, but to abstain and have no votes really doesn't reflect that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on to the final A team.
We're the C-suite.
We're proud.
You're the C-suite. Okay, you're the C-suite.
Hey,
I like
C-suite
that.
gets the job done, all right? Or Microsoft Suite,
We're
sorry.
going to start with Zenon and work our way down. So, banned books has become a hot topic in public education. If you are elected senator, would you enact any policy to allow school boards to ban books, and what type of books?
Well, I do not support the banning of books. In fact, I think the banning of books is what has gotten us in this crisis in the first place. We see that American literacy rates are in the tank. In fact, most people that are in high school cannot read at a 5th grade level. That is a dangerous precedent, and we don't solve that by banning books. We solve that by allowing kids to read books, to learn, to form opinions. I think one of the great things about this country is that we give people all of the options and we let them decide things for themselves, because a transparent democracy is a true democracy. And so I really do support the idea of not allowing these book bans, because in the end we need to allow for folks to actually educate themselves and create the minds that are human-focused on generating ideas.
Thank you. Ellen?
I'm with Zenon. I don't support the banning of books. I don't believe that there are ideas that can't be evaluated by a reader, and I think we need to trust our children and their parents to be able to decide what they're reading and how they're interpreting it. And that's really the bottom line for me.
Okay, thank you. Rick?
I support local school boards making these sort of decisions. They know their community. There probably should be some books banned age appropriate. I don't think explicit sexual discussion in books read by children under 16 is probably appropriate. I do think that, I don't support banning books. I do agree that our civilization is advanced by ideas that are put out through books. But we need to understand age appropriateness for our children, and we need to allow parents to decide what it is that their kids can read. Many times, parents aren't aware of what is in their school libraries or what is being taught in class, and there needs to be the ability of parents to opt out of certain things, and maybe that's a quasi-ban, but if we have things like that where the parents who have the best interests of their children in view, I think we can have kind of a middle road. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, back to you over here. We're starting with Shai. Do you promise never to weaken Prop 13 property tax protections for homeowners?
Yes, I don't think that that is something that would be good for my district. I don't think that that would be something that's good for California. And so, you know, I don't look to support anything that would threaten Proposition 13 protections for homeowners.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, I will never touch Prop 13.
Well, that's a quick answer. Okay, now we're going to the middle group here. She says, please respond yes or no. So this is pretty simple. Do you support expanding statewide rent control, caps, or stabilization of any kind? And then explain your stance. And we're going to start with Amaris.
Sorry. I don't believe that we should, I really don't think that, so, no.
Okay.
That's the answer. And do you want, let me give you the explanation.
Yes.
Yes, you know, affordability of housing is a huge problem. And, you know, housing really is interconnected. It impacts health, it impacts, you know, mental health, it impacts, you know, relations just in the community. So I really think that that we should have, we shouldn't.
Okay, thank you. Eric? Do you want
Must
me
have
to?
been user. This is working now.
Now it's working.
Yes, my answer is no as well, and I'll expand. You know, oftentimes when you reflect on the idea of rent control, there's been context over the last 10 years where it's been instituted that you think of the coronavirus pandemic or specific instances where there's a significant impact on the economy. What's lost in the decision around rent control is the fact that the majority of landowners or folks that own small apartment complexes, it's their investment. It's small investors that are doing this, and they have mortgages to pay on those properties as well. And so there's an economic sort of pushing out the balloon effect, if you will, of rent control. So it needs to be, any decision needs to be balanced and stabilized, but I do not support an expansion of rent control in our state.
Thank you. Christina?
I also believe that it needs to be transparent, and I believe, again, it's what the people in the district want, in the cities, in the neighborhoods, because up in Sacramento, they have their own thing going on. And when you look, like Eric was saying, during a certain pandemic, okay, we had the eviction moratorium, but it kept going, it kept going, it kept going. And a lot of these people that rely on on their property income, they don't know what else to do. So, in my opinion, it would come down to talking with your constituents and seeing what is right for that community, not coming out of Sacramento politics.
Thank you. Okay, C-Suite. We're going to start with Ellen, and then we'll go to Rick, and then to Zenon. What will you do to be able to work along both sides of the aisle?
So in my work in the neighborhood association, I've fought with developers and I've worked with developers. In my work trying to get short-term rental enforcement in the city of Los Angeles, I worked with union groups and housing advocates who didn't share all my goals and priorities. It's easy to find common interests and common goals, and I think Democrat or Republican, what we all want is a better California, a California that works, and a California where there's opportunity for everyone, and a California where we're safe and we feel safe. So that's the bottom line. I don't think it's going to be hard to work across the aisle because I like to talk to everybody.
Thank you. Rick?
Yes, I would work with, I would be on the minority side of the aisle. And as you know, the majority isn't always interested in what the minority has to think. But I would reach out to the majority and attempt to do things that we could work with together. But the greatest thing that this district could do would be to elect a minority party representative, a Republican, to this seat. And because eventually we get enough people, Republicans up there, we could actually have an impact on what's going on in California. The one-party rule of this state is what's ruining us. And I ask you to take a look at that and to maybe change your vote, to change your life. Because if you're like me, you're tired of what's going on and it needs to change. And you can't do that by voting for people who are going to go to Sacramento and be part of the majority party. We need to have a two-party system in Sacramento so that there's give and take, so that there's debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Zenon?
I think, like many of you here today, I am fed up with our politics. I am fed up with the way the system is working because it isn't working. And in many ways, I see those feelings of anger and of disappointment at the system that was supposed to empower us and support us all across the political spectrum. And I think more than anything, it boils down to a difference between those in power now and those not in power. And, I agree. In many ways, the one-party state in California has created so many issues. I am in whole heart of support of making sure we are getting behind a lot of the corruption, the waste, the grift that we see in our public contracting practices. It is so hard for us as a state to do anything, and that is so much tied to the red tape that we put on our small businesses. But at the same time, I come from the perspective that I know government can deliver. It can do things. We built the state highway system. We built the state water system. I want to return to that government, the government that does something. And I think working across the aisle with people that recognize the systemic flaws from a generation that's been holding on to power for too long, I will definitely work hand in step with them.
Thank you. All right, now we'll start down here with Mike. What is your position on the proposed billionaire tax?
Yeah, thank you. I'm opposed to the billionaire tax, and I'll tell you why. And I think this is one of the things Governor Newsom has gotten right, as well as a lot of other people have. To potentially get a $1 billion shot in the arm, $100 billion shot in the arm one time, we're potentially losing trillions of dollars in revenue down the road. What do I mean by that? 8,500 people in this state, people or companies, fund $175 billion of our $350 billion budget. The LA Times had a great story a couple weeks ago, you might have seen it, where such progressive luminaries as Steven Spielberg and Jeffrey Katzenberg are already secretly moving things to New Jersey to get away from it. We won't see that $100 billion even one time, and we'll lose $1 trillion down the road, and we're cutting off our nose to spite our faces. Let's focus on additional revenue, additional building, and keeping what we have here. We are not going to fix California by driving a single dollar away, and that $100 billion will not be worth it, and you'll never see it anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Shai.
Like the governor, I don't support this particular proposition. And the biggest flaw is the one-time nature of it. You can get away and come back if you need to, and I think what would end up happening is it would cost California money. It would cost California revenue potentially. California obviously is going through a difficult budget crisis right now. I won't be focused on balancing the budget or increasing revenue on the backs of working people, I can tell you that. But this billionaire's tax, being a one-time tax, is not going to lead to the outcome that it's intended to, and it won't increase revenue in the long term, and so that's why I oppose it.
Thank you. All right, now, our middle group. We're going to have Eric first, then Christina, then Amaris, okay? Are you concerned with the sudden onslaught of AI in our society, workplaces, educational system, et cetera? If so, do you think that there needs to be any legislation to help control this as it develops going forward?
Yes. Having been in the healthcare industry for a long time, I'm starting to see increasingly the advent of AI in that environment, and certainly in my many years of community service, you're starting to see AI play out there as well. It's an effective tool. It sort of harkens us back, to the 1980s when the advent of sort of the personal computer started. So there's usefulness, there's utility, but from my perspective as a school board member, there's also significant potential for danger, particularly from my standpoint as a dad of 4 kids. Really thinking about critical thinking skills and the importance of that and living a good and fruitful and effective life. So I do think that this is the time and the era for legislators, particularly in our state, to be looking at the right guardrails and the right ways of regulating AI so it can be effectively utilized and not overused. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina.
I believe AI is both good and bad, and again, it can be used for good purposes, for bad purposes. Maybe legislation to regulate it, but not so much on coming out of Sacramento, more so dealing with school boards and districts where the schools are in play. Maybe starting at high school is where the kids can start to explore AI. Maybe there can be a disclaimer on certain photos or on certain things, because there's a lot of stuff going on that people are putting faces and names and turning AI and saying this was this person, that was this person. So just like somebody here was saying about computers, there's a lot that needs to be regulated. It is cyberspace, it's new technology, it's a venture that we have to eventually look into and semi-regulate it, and especially on the parents' side.
Thank you. Amaris?
AI is an effective tool, but just like my colleague said, doctors are using it, attorneys are using it, teachers are using it, but at least in the legal field, there's misinformation. It's being regulated by the courts, and just it's all for children. It has to be the parents needs to communicate with the child on proper usage, and I think it could be an effective tool in high school, but again, you need to be able to critically think first and then supplement that with AI.
Thank you. All right, down to this group down here. We're starting with Rick, and then we'll go to Zenon and Ellen, okay? What do you see as the most pressing problem facing California today?
Overregulation. That we have, if you've read Gulliver's Travels, that's not a banned book, but if you've read that, you see that the Lilliputians tied Gulliver down. He was many, many times larger than them. We have the fourth largest economy in the world, and it's amazing how we're still able to go. But the regulations are just killing us. The stuff coming out of Sacramento is just killing us. The one-party rule in Sacramento is just killing us. We've got to change. We've got to have new ideas. And you can't have new ideas if you don't elect people with new ideas. So my answer, it's regulation that's killing us, and I would tag on to that, high taxes. California has the highest taxes in the nation, and we're still broke. And something's got to be done about that.
Thank you. Zenon?
Number one issue is affordability. It ties into everything that not just I'm facing as a generation whose friends can't get jobs in computer science and economics, who can't afford to move out of their houses, who can't afford basic necessities. Every single generation is feeling the crunch of these times. And more than anything, as the state of California, as the fourth largest economy in the world, we should be able to do something about this. In terms of the questions we were talking about before, about excess prices for fuel companies, we know that on average there's about 35 to 45 cents of unaccounted for costs when you compare California's gas prices with every other gas price in the country. And that's because there are monopolies. There are corporations that are jacking up prices, that are creating products that are smaller and smaller for more and more every single day. We need the state of California to step up and regulate these bad actors. We need the state of California to break up the monopolies that are destroying Hollywood. Look, we are in an era that is unprecedented, and it's very clear that we need to be doing things differently so that our state is affordable for the next generation and the current.
Thank you. Ellen?
Zenon is absolutely right that affordability is the number one issue we're facing. People are leaving California, particularly young families, because they can't afford to raise their kids here. And we need to tackle that, particularly housing affordability. We need to make it so that that builders and developers want to build housing here and want to build a lot of housing. And that's how we're going to tackle our housing affordability problem. But our energy problem, we also need to tackle our utility energy, our electricity. We're spending a lot of money in your utility rate on vegetation management, when we should be modernizing the whole system and doing it not on the backs of ratepayers, but in a state-financed and urgent way, because it's also a fire hazard and it's costing our state billions of dollars in destruction from fire. So I think Zenon's absolutely right, affordability, so that we can keep California prosperous, keep it full of opportunity for everyone. Thank you.
thank you. All right, now we will go to Shai. What will you do to advance public financing of election campaigns?
I think that's an incredibly important issue that is so meaningful to the state of our local government, state government, and federal government. You know, I think as candidates, and, you know, I've been a local elected, you know, for 8 years, you know, running for this seat. And, you know, even after people get elected, so much of the focus is raising money. You know, you have to raise a lot of money to get elected into office. And then after you get reelected or elected or reelected, you know, so much of the time and effort is spent getting, you know, fundraising so that you can get that message consistently out and compete with your opponents. And we don't do, that takes away time from governing, that takes away time from coalition building, that takes away time from meaningfully finding solutions together as leaders that make a difference for your constituents. And I think that's the number one thing that the next state legislature can really encounter over the next decade, can really tackle.
Thank you. Mike?
Well, let me give you the ugly answer first, and then I'll tell you what I'd still do. I mean, unless you can go back in time and overturn Buckley v. Vallejo at the Supreme Court, you're never going to keep money out of politics because it equals free speech. And Citizens United made that even worse. So there's nothing we can do, and anybody who says up here we can is not informed on the issue. But what I will do anyhow is make it a major issue, and I have in this campaign, and I will continue to work to do everything I can to support efforts to overturn those terrible Supreme Court decisions because they are killing politics in this country, no doubt about it. And I put my money where my mouth is. There was an earlier question about, you know, how you financed your campaign. It wasn't for us, but I'm proud to say that, you know, throughout the entire, since the start of this campaign, not only have I been, you know, in the top tier of fundraisers in this campaign, but I've raised more money for more individuals than anybody in this campaign. I have a smaller average donation than anybody in this campaign. I've raised it from 30 years of doing this for free and for fun in my community, starting at the Venice Neighborhood Council, and through my clients and through my family, and that's the best way to combat it as a candidate. But we got to overturn those 2 court decisions. That's it.
Thank you. All right, now we'll start with Christina, and we'll go right on down, okay? What are your top 3 priorities for our district?
Okay. First one, affordability. Second one, wildfire prevention. And the third one is public safety.
All right.
So can I expand on that?
Sure, of course
Okay.
you can.
So for affordability, we need to streamline the process of rebuilding, and we need to talk about red tape and transparency. That's number one. Public safety comes with Prop 36. I fully intend to support the funding of Prop 36. In fact, 70% of voters overwhelmingly want Prop 36, but Gavin Newsom had new ideas, so that's not happening. And lastly, wildfire prevention, that we are not in wildfire season. LA is wildfire. We just are wildfire. And a lot of this can be preventable. Number one, have water in the reservoirs, common sense. Number two, I'd like to utilize goats, what they do in Palos Verdes, for the brush clearance. And lots of other ideas that you can find on my website, but my time is up.
Okay, thank you. Amaris?
1, more jobs. I will champion initiatives that stimulate job growth across District 24, especially in green energy, tech, and creative industries. 2, more access to healthcare. I support universal access to healthcare and prioritize removing the stigma around mental health through expanded services. And 3, no unhoused individuals. I will lead efforts to expand affordable housing and implement real long-term solutions for unhoused individuals.
Thank you. Eric?
Thank you for the question. For me, it's public safety, quality of life, and our economy. And in my career and in my public service, I've been proud to have impacted all 3 of those areas in some respect. Public safety, I was very proud that RPV during my tenure was the 4th safest city due to all the efforts in partnership with our collaboration with our Sheriff's Department and all of our efforts. Thank you for mentioning the goats, Christy. related to fire preparedness and planning, and the advent of AI, actually, technologies, including AI cameras that are in place now to protect us and provide early warning. Quality of life, the mental health crisis, ensuring that there's accountability, and that the tools that we're using to leverage good outcomes and getting people off the streets and provided care are actually being implemented more effectively and more cost efficiently. The economy, as a small businessman, I want to make sure that we ease our regulations and invest in our small businesses and create an environment here in California where we're going to create jobs and stability for all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to start with Zenon and just work our way down. If you think corporations should pay more taxes, does that mean more active enforcement of current tax laws or changing our tax laws? How specifically?
All of the above. Look, we saw that when we invested in the IRS at the federal level, we were able to enforce the tax code that exists because the vast majority of tax dodgers are the wealthiest individuals. It's not even a discussion about how much we want to tax them. The base level, which is also lower than most other comparable G6 countries, G6, G7, what year are we in? G6 countries, we know that by to close those loopholes, we can actually deliver those results. In terms of taxes on corporations themselves, we are seeing that the Trump tax cuts have resulted in massive windfalls for corporations in California. Incredible windfalls. At the same time as small businesses are going under, at the same time as people are losing their jobs, we are seeing a fundamental reshifting of our economy because of technology, and we're not going to be able to rely on the jobs that have existed before to power us into the future. We systematically need to reevaluate our tax code and how we support people because we are changing with technology. And I think as a young person who's living this, I bring the most experience to do action on this change.
Thank you. Ellen?
We need to be really sensitive about how we would do this because big corporations are leaving California, small business people are leaving California. We need to make it easier to do business in California. But there are a number of loopholes. First of all, property taxes. Corporations, LLCs can transfer their property and never pay property tax. And I would definitely seek to change that, and that's something that you can do in the state Senate. And I know that there are also a lot of corporations that are not paying their fair share through other loopholes, and I would work to close those loopholes. But I also want to make sure that we are creating a prosperous future, and we can't have a prosperous future if we're driving businesses out of California.
Thank you. Rick?
Corporations are not the evil boogeyman that the question implied. Corporations don't pay taxes. Their customers do. And if you don't believe me, what about the tariffs that put on all our imports? Who pays those? The whole thing here is that we have way too much regulation. And it used to be that only big corporations could suffer that regulation, but California has managed to do what it always does, do something new. They have started running even the big corporations out of California because their regulation is so high. What we have to do is we have to free things up. I'm old enough to remember when we didn't have cell phones, and when long-distance charges, you didn't talk very long because the charges were enormous on long distance. And then suddenly a company called MCI came in, and they fixed it so you have to dial a number, and you get on there and you got cheaper rates. And we all did that, and pretty soon, everything opened up. Well, guess what? When those long-distance charges were tariffs, they were regulations. And when you take care of regulations, you reduce the cost of things. Housing, everything.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're back to Mike. What do you think would be helpful in addressing the state's water issues?
Well, there's two important issues there. First of all, the Delta Conveyance Project, I think, has to happen. It's got some ups, it's got some downs, it's got benefits, and it's got harms. But at the end of the day, if we're not able to get that water down into this part of the state, we're going to have much larger problems than we have right now, not only in terms of, businesses being able to operate, people's homes being able to operate, the cost of water, obviously, yet another resource that is making it less affordable in California. but also because of wildfire prevention and wildfire mitigation. We're just in a situation now where climate change is here to stay. There is no fire season, that was well said, and we're just gonna have to do it even though it's not a perfect solution. I think on the water issue, what we also have to make sure we're doing though is actually treating our stormwater runoff into our oceans. The fact that we live in this bay and we only have actual secondary treatment of stormwater runoff into the ocean in one spot is unconscionable. I mean, to come here and to not be able to go in the water for 3 days after it's rained, what if you came here from the other side of the world as a tourist? How would you feel about California? So we got to tackle it both ways.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Shai.
Thank you. It's a critical question for the future of the district. In addition to the, Delta Conveyance Project, I think we need to look at innovative solutions. When I was president of the LA County Medical Association, we engaged with, Las Virgenes Water, which serves a significant part of this district. And they have innovative solutions like water reuse that is not new, but it's new to the area. And then additionally, deep water desalinization. And so there's a number of things that we can do and invest in to help stabilize our water supply. I'm proud to have the support of the majority of the Las Virgenes Water Board as well as the Sierra Club, and it's something that I hope to engage on in Sacramento.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start with Amaris, and then we will go to Eric and then Christina here. What is your position on single-sex sports?
Single-sex sports?
That's how they put it, yes.
In boarding schools, there are single-sex sports. Just if there's, girls' boarding schools, men's boarding schools, that's a decision up to the parents. I believe that it is important to have co-ed sports. I was involved in soccer, starting as an elementary. Me and my best friend were the only two girls in a whole entire soccer team, and that really, and then I also did theater with the girls, so it exposed me to both. It helps you, the students socialize, and it's important in college, so I support co-ed.
Okay. Eric.
Thank you. I was fortunate to be a collegiate runner and also a high school football coach at Santa Monica High School many years ago, and certainly big supporter of Title IX. I've loved seeing the advent of sports as a father of 2 sons and 2 daughters. I get to see them all be active in many ways. So this question, I think the implication of this question has an undertone, and I want to address that undertone, which is to say that to me, all kids deserve an opportunity, especially in youth sports, to engage, participate, and a community. And that's really, to me, fundamentally what being part of youth sports is all about. And I think that's important to cultivate and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina.
No boys and girls sports. Girls need our safe spaces. That's how I feel.
Okay, thank you. All right. Down here, we'll start with Ellen. If elected, what are you going to do to not only support but protect LGBTQ people?
Okay. As an LGBTQ person, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that we are passing laws that promote equality, that eliminate bias, and to make sure opportunity is available to all LGBT people, to be a sanctuary for people who are seeking gender-affirming care, where gender-affirming care has been outlawed, where they live. I'm going to be 100% all in.
Thank you. Rick?
Well, I personally don't support mutilation, especially of people's bodies, especially those under 18. Adults can do what they want to do, but kids don't have the way to, the necessary experience, necessary cognitive ability to understand what's going to happen to them if they do that. There's real mental issues there that we're using surgery to take care of, and we need to get back to taking care of some mental issues. In terms of not discriminating against LGBTQ people, I do not support discrimination against LGBTQ people, But I also know that we as a society have differences of opinion on how all that thing's supposed to work out. Originally, it was, well, we just want to have visitation rights in hospital, and now we've gotten to the point to where we're having to affirm certain things. I think what we need to do is we need to have a kind of a middle ground again, where people can have their opinions, but we don't discriminate against people, even on the basis of sexual orientation. But we all are Americans, we all are Californians, we all have rights, and we enforce those rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Zenon?
I wholly support protecting and making sure that California is the sanctuary for queer community that it is. Look, in so many ways, California has been the land of opportunity for so many people that have fled hardships, and bans on abortion in other states, bans on gender-affirming therapy, which saves lives, bans on all sorts of things that are human rights. And so I think California needs to lead on this and make sure that not only are we just protecting this at the local level, but also the state level. We saw how the city of Beverly Hills tried to prevent a maternal health clinic from opening. We saw how across the state there are different jurisdictions that are fighting back against some of the rights that we've come to enjoy. And so I really want to emphasize the fact that what we need to do as a California is not just make sure that we have the social inclusion and we make sure our communities follow those laws, but also we guarantee the economic inclusion that allows California to be the place that people from across this country can come to and find a safe haven.
Thank you. All right, now we'll start with Shai down here. Would you support legislation that allows higher density or multifamily construction in rebuilt single-family fire zones?
It's a very personal question
Yeah.
to me, given that we, lost our home in the fire. And, I don't think that the long-term answer is to increase density in fire zones. My focus is going to be on, the state's investment in evidence-based fire mitigation. If we can another community is going to burn down somewhere in California this year, and anything that the state can do to provide best practices of fire mitigation and lead on it is going to save the state billions of dollars in the long term if it even prevents one wildfire over the next decade. Number two, insurance stabilization. California Fair Plan is not the answer. We need private insurance back in our fire zones. And the way that we can help private insurance come back is to make fire-safe building and rebuilding affordable in California in the similar way that we've incentivized things like solar. And so that's what I hope to, engage on and lead on, and my focus will be on making sure that the people who lost their homes in our district rebuild and rebuild as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Mike?
The short answer is no. We don't need additional density in high fire severity areas. I think that's just, I think if you think differently than that, I think that you're probably just not looking at it from a common sense viewpoint. But the larger issue is, what do we do in these areas like the Palisades or Malibu or even Altadena outside of the district that have burned? Who are we going to elect to be able to deal with these issues? Because one of the major jobs that the next person in this office is going to have to deal with for the next 10 years is the rebuild of the Palisades in Malibu in this district. And we need somebody who has sat on city planning commissions for a long time. We need somebody who is a construction attorney, somebody who builds themselves, somebody who understands the planning code inside and out, somebody who understands housing issues inside and out, somebody who is a practicing environmental attorney for 3 decades and understands how to protect habitat, how to protect species diversity, where you can build, where you can't. Somebody who intimately understands CEQA and understands the California Coastal Act. And again, I think I'm uniquely positioned to be able to do that.
Thank you. All right, now we'll start with Eric and then Christina and then Amaris. What will you do to help revitalize commercial districts? Specifically, this person is talking about Artesia Boulevard and Redondo Beach, but generally too.
Sure. I'll use a specific example, and it's still sort of in its infancy, but as a city council member in the city of Rancho Palos Verdes, home to the corridor partnered with the city of Los Angeles, we took numerous steps. We looked at traffic improvement, beautification, and then economic development, sort of in those three phases, to improve and revitalize that particular area. So in respect to Artesia, I think in a similar vein. And we did that effectively by synchronizing lights, which improved the throughput by 5 minutes. We were able to beautify some of the area to encourage developers to consider coming in. And we just had, our very first project in that area as a result, as well as gave incentives, storefront incentives to businesses to beautify the front of their stores to encourage that revitalization to happen. So I'm excited about this topic. I used to work for the Community Redevelopment Agency of Los Angeles when it existed many years ago. And I love to see and cultivate an environment and improvement and revitalization of our commercial corridors throughout this district. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Christina.
Pretty much the same as Eric. To revitalize the neighborhood, obviously beautification. The one thing that I would, traffic improvement, but the other thing I would add is dealing with the homeless who are in front of the mom and pop shops. That is a big issue. And then we have traffic congestion. So there's a lot that needs to be done in certain areas, not just on Artesia Boulevard, but I do agree with Eric on those issues.
Amaris?
Our commercial districts are the heart of our neighborhoods. That's where we grab our coffee. That's where the kids, get their first jobs. So I definitely think that we should provide relief for small businesses, tax relief, and also perhaps mean state matching funds for cities, investing in lighting and safety, cleanup, transportation, cracking down on commercial landlords, warehousing that keeps storefronts empty for years while neighborhoods wither. So a thriving commercial district isn't a luxury, it's the foundation of a healthy community.
Thank you. All right, now we'll start with Rick and then go to Zenon and Ellen. How will you end our criminal sanctuary policies?
I assume you are talking about the illegal immigration problem we have here. What we need to do is cooperate with the federal government in their job. Arizona helped us out when they tried to do their own local state enforcement, and the Supreme Court stepped in and stopped them. It is a federal responsibility. What we need to do is, at least at a minimum, when detainers are issued for illegal immigrants in jail, we need to honor those. We need to allow our law enforcement agencies to honor those. It would be nice if we created more, if we cooperated more with them, because I think there would be less protests and so forth. Right now, we're actually creating our protests, and I don't think that's good for anybody in our community. The United States is a very generous country when it comes to immigration, $2 million a year.
Thank you. Zenon?
So this is something that's really personal to me. This past summer, when the ICE raids first started happening, I went to downtown Los Angeles to peacefully protest alongside thousands of protesters. And we were met with LAPD in full riot gear who tear gassed us and shot us, and I got shot in the face with a rubber bullet. And that was in direct violation of a court-ordered injunction that said that they were not allowed to use that type of force on peaceful protesters. I think that when we talk about the humanity of people getting ripped from their families, having done nothing but be law-abiding, hard-working people for as long as they can, while the immigration system fails to catch up with their lives, is immoral. And the fact is, we see that sanctuary cities are the key to not just making sure people have safe lives, but also our communities are safe. When we don't have sanctuary policies, people don't report crimes because they fear deportation. They fear the results and the consequences of them being non-citizens, even though they have been law-abiding for years and would like to join everybody here. And so I really want to emphasize that we need to make sure California is a strong sanctuary state, and actually that we make sure we are enforcing our sanctuary laws, which are not being enforced currently.
Ellen?
Yesterday, a friend of mine had an immigration hearing. He came here seeking asylum, and there was a very, very real threat at home. And he came here and he did everything that was asked of him. He wore his ankle bracelet. He lived peacefully. He did everything you're supposed to do when you're seeking asylum. And what the government was seeking to do was first to deport him to Uganda, not just say, sorry, you can't have citizenship, you can't live here. They were going to deport him to Uganda. And then more recently, they were going to deport him to Ecuador. And he's gay, and it would have been very, very bad for him to be deported to these places. We have immigration laws, and immigration laws have a way to be enforced with warrants, with hearings, with promises made and promises kept. There are rules. As long as we abide by the rules, we should be fine. But in this current environment, we should not be helping what's happening now.
Thank you. All right, now we'll start with Mike. I think this is going to be the last round of questions before we do our closing. All right, what do you see as the most pressing problem facing California?
I thought we had gotten that, but
Did you ask? I thought I asked that to you guys.
Oh, I see. We're going. Gotcha.
I'm
I
pulling out.
like the question. I like the question because I think it has a couple of different answers. The number one issue facing California right now is absolutely affordability, but it's used as a buzzword, unfortunately. What does affordability mean? It means that we complain about an affordable housing crisis when we haven't allowed people to build anything in 30 years. It means that we complain about gas and energy and food being too expensive when we overregulate the very businesses that could make them more affordable. It means that we talk about how expensive it is to protect yourself or all the things you have to do to be safe, but yet we don't properly fund fire, we don't properly fund law enforcement. It means that we talk about all of the money we have to put into climate change, but yet we don't properly protect our resources. We don't properly protect our oceans, our air, and our water. So it's a larger issue, and you can't just focus on one thing. What we need is people who will get up here. I mean, I sort of joke with people. You've heard me say this before. I'm like a 1992 Bill Clinton blue dog. It's the economy, stupid Democrat. Like, I'm a Democrat up here, but you hear me saying a lot of things that moderate Republicans might have said in the past. We have to just get down to common sense, issue by issue governance, and it all is going to make it much more affordable. Yeah.
Thank you.
Access to health care is under attack. And, we're facing gigantic Medicaid cuts, both at the federal level and at the state level. And it's not just affecting Medi-Cal, which serves 50% of California children, but it's also going to affect every person in this district because primary care access to care, specialty access to care, was already facing crisis for privately insured people and Medicare recipients. And this is just going to make the problem worse. And, not only is it socially unjust to restrict access to Medi-Cal for our most vulnerable populations, it's not cost effective. What we're going to see is what happened before the Affordable Care Act, where the healthcare facilities are going to go out of business over the next few years because costs are going to be driven up by local government, and so many uninsured are going to go in through the emergency room. And so we're looking at a crisis that's going to get worse, and we need folks in Sacramento who understand how this system works to help fix it.
Okay, thank you. All right, I am recycling a few questions, but you did not get this question. Okay, and we will start with Christina and then work our way down to Eric. Will you, and if so, how will you, carry on the environmental work that current State Senator Ben Allen dedicated much of his efforts to? I know you did that.
You asked us.
Yeah, well, I asked you guys. I kept track.
Take note, Mike is questioning the questioner.
God, I'm difficult. I'm difficult.
Okay, so in my humble opinion, Ben Allen, his pride and joy is banning plastic straws, which is ridiculous, because you go to the grocery store and you buy bread and it's wrapped in plastic. You go to the store and you go to Starbucks and your, whatever it is, macchiato is in plastic. So if we're gonna do this, let's do it the right way, not half-ass it. So also, I want to say that the environment is very important because all of us want to have clean air, we want to have clean energy, but guess what? It's not for the safety of the smelt fish or the weed that started the fires in the Palisades. People come first, and when you educate people on the environment, there's not one person in here, Democrat, Republican, independent voter, that wants a dirty earth and dirty water. We all want the same thing. We all want clean air to breathe, but there is a way of doing it first where we educate the people and make sure the people come first.
Thank you. Annalise?
I believe Senator Ben Allen has done important work on the environment. I will fight to reduce plastic waste by promoting sustainable alternatives and enforcing eco-friendly measures, safeguarding our coastline through environmental regulation, conservation programs, and sustainable development.
Okay, thank you. Eric?
I indeed think Senator Allen left a good legacy in the environment. I was fortunate as a two-term city council member and one of my proudest moments was to institute the natural conservation plan and the habitat plan that protected the Palos Verdes Preserve, essentially in perpetuity. And as a result of that, the Palos Verdes blue butterfly is now better protected and thriving again, as an example. So production of open space is important. We're limited on it. There's a new way of thinking about environmental issues, which is, of course, related to being good stewards of our environment. And we also have to be thoughtful in how we cultivate that environment, as exhibited by all the fire hazards and conditions that we have. So we have to do great management. I was fortunate to be the city of El Segundo's very first chair of its environmental committee 18 years ago, and as a result of that work, worked on targeted efforts to ensure that there was programs at the municipal level to ensure that businesses were incentivized to promote green energy, and residents were incentivized as well to participate actively in improving the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start with Zenon and then right on down the line. Another recycled question, but you did not get this one.
I trust you.
What are your top 3 priorities for our district?
Great question. I come from a background of affordable housing. I see that the affordable housing crisis doesn't just show up as a crisis in our rents, but also downstream in our business districts where people are living on the street because there's not enough affordable housing. In our community parks where we see that there's people living on the street. Second, I would also be focused on making sure we are fighting back against the Trump administration's rollbacks of environmental protections. We've seen how the administration has tried to open up offshore oil drilling in the Santa Monica Bay, which is insanity to me. As a state of California, we banned onshore oil supporting infrastructure, which was good, but we just saw how the Trump administration reopened some oil supporting infrastructure in Santa Barbara because we sat on our hands for such a long time and we didn't actually dismantle this inactive infrastructure. So I want to take a step further and dismantle this infrastructure. The third thing that I would focus on is making sure that we are fighting for the next generation of politics. I think in so many ways our politics are broken because of the way we've always done things. I've led in Sacramento and passed legislation that people have tried to kill because we increased the scope and made sure that everybody was fighting for it. And that's something I want to bring to making sure we are solving in this government.
Thank you. Ellen, your top 3 priorities.
Number one, I want to make sure we're building more housing, and I think that there's a lot of ways that we can make it easier for developers to get their shovel in the ground that is going to make them able to build more and to build more different stuff and to build at scale. And I think that's a number 1 priority. Number 2, we need to mitigate our fire risk as a state. Fire is causing tremendous destruction, and the fact that we're letting it is increasing our insurance costs. Number 1, we've known for decades that our old, outdated utility equipment starts fires, and we have not modernized it, and we have not removed it. And we need to do that and build out our grid so that we can make good on our clean energy future, because we have really laudable greenhouse gas goals to keep climate change to a reasonable level, and we're just not equipped in a regulatory fashion to meet those. I want to make sure we're meeting them, and I want to make sure that we're building out our capacity so that we can have our electric cars, so that we have the grid for it, and so that the utility turning on utilities is no longer a barrier to housing being built, which it is.
Thank you. Rick?
Could you repeat the question again?
Sure. What are your top 3 priorities for our district?
Number one is cheaper gas, and I'll get into that in a moment. I agree with the affordable housing question, but I don't want to see the density increased. And there's a way to go about that. And lastly, we need to have safer neighborhoods, and that's targeting the homeless industrial complex. The reason I say cheaper gas, I don't know if you know that there's only 6 refineries in California that produce our gasoline. We just had 2 of them shut down, one in Northern California and right here at Phillips. And we're going to run out of gas. We import 40%. I haven't talked for 30 seconds. We are going to run. We import 40% of our oil right now. We're not allowed to drill. We have plenty of it here, but we're not allowed to drill. Those increase the cost of our gas. It's not possible to get to our energy future we want to get to if we get rid of gas. It's not going to happen in my lifetime. Maybe it'll happen in some of the younger people's lifetime. It's not going to happen in mine. And I think we need to quit selling the bill of goods on that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to turn to our closing statements. We're going to start a minute and a half each, and we're going to start with Rick, and we are going to work our way down. And while Rick starts, I'm going to move up to the lectern to end the thing later.
Should I wait for you to move?
If you'd like it.
I will do that.
Okay.
California collects some of our country's highest income business and fuel taxes and now spends over $300 billion a year. And yet, everywhere you look, California seems to be falling apart. Where does all that money go? Our roads are crumbling, and because of mismanagement of forest and water resources, wildfires have turned our neighborhoods into ash. Drug addiction and homelessness have transformed parts of Los Angeles and San Francisco into no-go zones. The ever-rising cost of living makes basic necessities like groceries and gas unaffordable, even as our state government spends billions on welfare programs that never seem to lift anybody out of poverty. The City Journal reports that unemployment insurance and Medicaid has failed. The City Journal reports that from unemployment insurance and Medicaid to failed homeless initiatives and welfare programs, every state program seems to have been compromised by criminals. The best estimates suggest that on the governor's watch, fraudsters, scammers, and organized crime have stolen at least $180 billion from taxpayers. None of my Democrat friends here will make the necessary changes to fix California. They can't because the machine won't let them. It's the price of party membership, party support, and funding necessary to win their campaigns. I don't have that same problem. I ask for your vote to fix California. I ask you to change your vote to change your life. My name is G. Rick Marshall, and I ask for your vote.
Thank you. Ellen?
Thanks so much for your attention, and thanks so much to the League of Women Voters for over a century of work fighting to make democracy work for everyone. That's more urgent than ever now. I'm not a career politician. I'm someone who spent many years devoted to the unglamorous work of making government deliver. And I know the difference between talking about change and making change. And I know what it's like when you sit across from a bureaucrat and they tell you that something is completely impossible, and you do it anyway. That's not a talking point. That's my life. Leaders across California are taking notice. The California Democratic Legislative Women's Caucus, the Legislative Jewish Caucus, the Women's Political Committee, my assembly member, Rick Chavez-Zabor, they all endorse me because they know that I'm the real deal. And here's what I believe, regardless of party. Californians are sick of government that overpromises and underdelivers. Californians want results they can actually see, and that's the standard I'll bring to Sacramento. When you send me there, I will fight to defend our democracy, protect our rights, civil rights, voting rights, reproductive rights, and I will work every single day to make sure California is full of opportunity for everyone, not just the billionaires. I'm the relentless advocate up here, and I'm asking for your vote.
Thank you. Zenon?
Thank you guys so much for being here today and staying until 8:30 p.m. to hear two races worth of candidates. Seriously, you guys are active and involved voters, and I have so much respect for you taking the time to be here. I think that it's gone? Can you hear me all right?
Do you probably need to touch the little button?
The battery just died on it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I think you've heard. Okay, what?
Oh, they timed out.
Okay. Oh. Take 3. By the way, love the entertainment industry. We got to keep it in Los Angeles. I think a lot of us have very similar ideas for how we want to and what we want to do in Sacramento. But the question is, how will we do it? Let me tell you a quick story just to close out. When I was working on affordable housing legislation in Sacramento, we had a bill to make it easier to build affordable student housing for students off campus. We had a ton of initial support. Everybody was on board. We got to our first committee, and they said they're going to kill our bill because it's going to build too much affordable student housing. And if we build too much affordable student housing, what about the other types of affordable housing? It made no sense. But as Sacramento happens, they tried to, at the 11th hour, kill our bill where we had no time to maneuver around it. Guess what? Because I'm a different generation, because we come from a different way of doing things, we took our problems to social media. And we got 400,000 people to send in calls, letters, talking to the legislators, put visibility on this issue to say, this is ridiculous, we need affordable student housing. And guess what? A bill that everybody thought was going to be dead got through that committee. And then it got signed into law, and it's building affordable student housing across the state. When I go to Sacramento, I don't want to just be the legislator you send to Sacramento. I want to govern with community, not just for community. The way we make change is when we all come together and pressure people to make that happen. And I hope you will empower me to be the first Gen Z legislator in California so we can make that difference together.
Thank you, Zenon. Eric.
Thank you all for hanging in there with us. It's wonderful to be with you. Mary Ellen, another great job of facilitating, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Obviously, it's been a joy to share this experience with my fellow candidates. We have, I believe, the most democratic Senate district race that we've probably had in some time, given all the forums that we've had in conversation. There's a lot of great intentions, but intentions are not enough. We need a senator who's going to deliver results. And when the coronavirus pandemic struck, I worked to operate my city through that process. When the Portuguese Bend landslide struck, I declared a state of local emergency and moved quickly to initiate resources for our community. When the wildfires threatened our communities, we didn't wait for Sacramento to solve the issue. We brought stakeholders together to implement real solutions, including artificial intelligence cameras. When our school facilities were falling apart, which is still a challenge, I worked a campaign for our local school bond. When I was a California Film Commissioner, I was a big supporter of instituting millions and millions of dollars of tax incentives. Right now, California has some real challenges. Healthcare costs are rising, coastline needs protection, our school needs real investment. I'm a leader who collaborates and works to bring people together, and since we're in the city of Torrance, I'm proud to be supported by former Mayor Pat Fury, a council member Assam Sheikh, as well as former council member Cliff Newmark, president of the school board Anil Muhammad, and also school board member Dave Ziegelbaum. I'm Eric Allegria, and I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Maurice?
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters and everyone who participated tonight. It was an honor to be here with you tonight. This campaign has always been about something simple, bringing common sense back to how we govern and how we serve our communities. I'm running as an attorney, a former scholar diplomat with the United States Department of State, a problem solver, and someone deeply rooted in District 24. We face serious challenges: housing, public safety, affordability, but also real opportunities if we approach them with clarity and discipline. I'm not running to make promises. I'm running to solve problems and deliver outcomes that people can actually feel in their daily lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christina?
California is one of the most expensive and most beautiful places to live. Sacramento keeps making it worse. Isn't it time to change? Isn't it time to get rid of the status quo? I will eliminate the gas tax. I will suspend the gas tax. I will oppose every new tax, new fee, and every new regulation that raises costs on families and small businesses. I will fight to fund Prop 36 for our safety, for your children's safety. I will make wildfire preparedness the first budget priority. While Sacramento politicians focused on national political theater, communities in the Palisades and in Malibu and surrounding areas lost everything. I will make wildfire preparedness the top line item, not an afterthought funded with scraps after every other Sacramento priority is satisfied. I have been endorsed by Senator Shannon Grove, who fights for kids in Title IX. I've been endorsed by Senator Tony Strickland, Assemblyman Carl DeMaio, Senate Majority Leader and now running for Lieutenant Governor Gloria Romero, former Democrat, Sheriff Alex Villanueva, former Democrat, and the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. So if you guys want a fighter and if you're sick of the status quo, I would love your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Shai.
Thank you so much to the league, to my fellow candidates, and to everybody who's been watching this for the last hour and a half. Look, I'm a coalition builder who has spent my career tackling tough challenges in every part of this district for the last 15 years. You know, I've lived in the Santa Monica Mountains. I've lost a home in the Santa Monica Mountains. Our family has lost our home, and we're looking to lead our community out in a rebuild effort. I've been a PTA president for my son's elementary school. In Santa Monica and West LA, I've been Dem Club president. I've been chair of the Santa Monica College Board of Trustees. I've represented our delegation at the California Democratic Party. Down here in the South Bay, I've worked in the South Bay for the last 15 years serving the patients and the families in this district. And I've been president of the LA County Medical Association, including at the beginning of COVID. I've been a leader who brought people together to address problems that benefit the constituents in SD 24. And that's why I'm proud to have a wide coalition of support that includes the California Democratic Party, SEIU California, AFSCME California, the Sierra Club, 22 out of the 26 electeds in Santa Monica, the majority of Malibu and Agora Hills City Councils, and folks in Torrance like Council Member Bridget Lewis and former Assembly Member Warren Furatani. I'm proud of my diverse coalition of support, and thank you for considering my campaign.
Thank you. Mike.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks to the league and all my fellow candidates. It was good having the Republicans here as well today. I enjoyed that. We should do this a few more times. Look, when I close, different things kind of come into my mind. And really, I think at the end of the day, you got to look at why is somebody running and can they do the job, right? Affordability is the problem right now. It's not abstract to me. As a lot of you know, I grew up poor. I was a kid who was, my family was evicted from our home 5 times when I was in high school. I luckily had a grandfather who was a union carpenter, taught me his trade. I was a wood shop kid in high school, and I worked my way through USC as a carpenter. And I still remodel homes to this day. Not knowing where your next paycheck is coming from, having to work with your hands, having to figure out how to make ends meet is something that's very real to me, and it's very real to a lot of people in this district right now. But I'll tell you, where we're not going to get anywhere with this is either our far extreme wings of either party, right? Somebody who does this job has to be somebody that works with other people. And I'll tell you this, I am very proud of this, and I don't think that anybody else up here can quite say this, but I'm proud to have the support of whether it is business leaders, business organizations, whether it's environmental groups or environmental leaders, whether it's law enforcement. I have extensive law enforcement support, as I've said, including the Torrance Police Officers Association, or whether it's traditional labor unions, which I also have extensive support from, as well as electeds. When you look at that coalition of being able to put all those folks together, it lets you know that it's a person who can sort of navigate these disparate views that together not only have to be navigated for peace's sense, but quite frankly, you take those different ideas and you put them together, and we're actually going to solve our problems. And I think I'm uniquely situated to do that. So thank you so much for having us today. It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, this concludes our candidates forum for the State Senate District 24. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Beach Cities, Palos Verdes Peninsula, and the Torrance area, I want to thank our candidates for participating tonight. And I also want, yeah. I also want to thank the City of Torrance for assisting with this venue and for Torrance Community Television for taping this forum. Thank you all for attending. This forum is now over.
You too.